Welcome to another episode of the No More Interruptions show. I'm your girl, Hazel, founder of BGI & Co. and Big Girl Interrupted. Ladies, it's time to join the conversation and own your journey. In this podcast, we'll explore all areas of a woman's confidence, from relationships to personal development, professional education, employment, entrepreneurship, marriage, divorce, and explore the development of positive mindsets through these experiences. Nothing is off limits here. And I am excited to have Veronica on the show today. Hey, Veronica.
Hello. So nice to be here. Thanks, Hazel.
You're welcome. So tell us about yourself. Where are you from? Where are you positioning from?
So I'm Veronica Weedon, and I am from Revival Health. I'm based in Switzerland, actually, but with a very mixed background. So from a little bit of American, some South African, and Swiss in there. So
wow,
mixture all around.
Yay!
A little bit about me. My heart melts like butter every time I look at my dog. I love motorcycles. I'm a bit of a petrol head. And for work, which is what we're here to talk about today, is I really help people become a magnet for healthier relationships. So,
yes.
And this, of course, is based on my own life experience of having attracted very unhealthy relationships that led to a lot of pretty dire consequences for quite a long time in my life, and caused me to completely shift and reset everything.
Wow. Okay. So can you talk about that a little bit? Like, what did that look like? Because that's
yeah. Sure. So I had never heard of something called toxic relationships before. I just knew that I kept getting sick. And so if we just look at the physical side of that, from just being drained all the time and sort of chronic fatigue and exhaustion. And I was getting short-term memory loss and concentration issues, which was very odd because I used to be such a focused person. To serious symptoms like a seizure. And I ended up with back surgery from a herniated disc. And those were just a few of the things. And of course, I went to many doctors over the years, and no doctor could ever explain why I was getting these things. And they ran every test in the book. I went to so many different doctors, and nobody could explain why I was suffering these symptoms. On top of that, of course, my relationship was just like an absolute roller coaster that I couldn't get off of. There was always drama, always chaos. It was exhausting. But I spent the whole relationship, basically the last toxic one, which I'm going to refer to, trying to get back to the person I believed I'd fallen in love with in the first place, because that person was my perfect person. He was really everything that I could ever want. And the beginning was so magical that I spent the next 6 years essentially trying to get back to that. And I just couldn't understand why it wasn't working, why it was falling apart. And in the meantime, I was becoming more and more unhealthy on an emotional, a mental, and a physical level, to the point where I was getting symptoms that I just described to you before. And so I really didn't understand what was going on with me. I just knew I was incredibly frustrated, exhausted, sick, and unhappy. And I felt more and more hopeless, and I felt more and more like a shadow of my former self. And it wasn't until I got out that I started to learn and find out and figure out what a toxic relationship even was, and all about narcissism and how they work and how they function. And that was sort of the ball that got me rolling on this whole healing journey of my own, which ultimately led into the work that I do today.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing. Amazing to see you on the other side. I did look at your website and saw that you spoke, like you do a lot of narcissistic work. So I'd love to have you come back. That's on another
Sure.
Talk about that, because that's a whole, in our women's group, we talk about it all the time. But it would be good to have that conversation, just strictly focusing on that topic, because it's a big topic and a lot of women don't even realize it until they're out of the situation that, oh my gosh, I was in a narcissist. I have a narcissistic relationship. I was in a narcissistic relationship, or my friends are narcissistic, you know?
Yeah, that's the thing. You make a great point, is people often, when they think about, when we talk about relationships and healthier relationships, the default is always people think romantic relationships. And of course that is part of it. And it is what we refer to most of the time, only because of the sheer amount of time and proximity that you have to that person.
Yes.
So the effects tend to be much greater, especially if you're married to them or living with them,
right,
in any capacity. But the toxic relationships can be everywhere, in the work environment, in friendships, in the family. It's often where they start.
And your kids.
Exactly, with your kids, with your parents, with your siblings, with, I mean, narcissism doesn't discriminate. And it's also not just a female problem, by the way. So no. I work with a number of male clients as well. And yeah, it's everywhere. And yeah, it's a big topic. It's a big topic, like you say.
Yes, it is. So during that experience of interruption, what were some of the limiting beliefs, things that you were experiencing during that time?
So once again, I wasn't aware that I actually had these beliefs. So I thought one of my core values is respect. And I always thought that I was living that. But here's the thing. If you are unhappy in life, then that is a good indication that you are living out of alignment with your own core values. And so this is actually a tip I would give to anyone listening. If you are unhappy, take a minute to step back and really look at your life and understand your own core values. What are they? You know, pick top 3, 5, not a laundry list of 25, but the core values. And then look at your life and see if there is alignment, truly. And this is where you do have to be brutally honest with yourself. And it's not an easy thing to do. And it's something I work with clients on, because often you need the external perspective to help you be objective.
Yes.
But it was certainly the case with me. I thought that I was living in alignment with respect being one of my core values. But when I took a serious look at my own life, I really wasn't. I was respecting others, but nobody was respecting me. And again, if we go back to the toxic relationships, of course, there's no respect in any of that from any of the toxic relationships in my life. And so your core values don't just apply to you living them outwards. They apply to the boundaries you set or don't towards you. So it's a two-way street. And this is the kicker, and what you need to be brutally honest with yourself about.
And it's hard to be honest with yourself.
It is.
It's a process and a journey that you have to go on and be willing to basically open those doors.
Yeah. But if you are unhappy in life, then like I say, it is a very good indication you're living out of alignment with them. And if you want something different, so by the way, you can choose to continue living that way, and that's okay. There's no judgment in that. But if you want something different, if you want something better for you, then you have to do something different. And this is another thing took me ages to learn. I spent all my time, effort, and energy trying to change other people in that romantic relationship. Him, I tried to get back to what he was at the beginning. And it's so frustrating, because it's in a narcissistic relationship. You believe that person is real. You later uncover that the person never existed. And that's devastating, because your entire reality shatters and you realize you've been living a lie for however many years or decades even. And that's a bitter pill to swallow. But yeah, going back and really understanding that it's a two-way street with the values.
Yeah. And so now that you're in a beautiful place, what are some of the positive mindset things that you engage in, that you're doing and also some tips with, like, how are you making sure that you're, like, being aware of and of the narcissistic personalities that may, because I mean, you know what they are, but how are you
Mm-hmm.
positioning yourself and creating boundaries for yourself? That's the question.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the creating boundaries is definitely something that takes practice, because knowledge about the subject is one thing, and it's a very important step. It's kind of the first step to understand what really happened to you. And that was also my journey, educating myself and figuring out, oh my God, this is what a toxic relationship is. This is what narcissism is. And this is how they operate. There's actually an abuse cycle, and this is how it works. And these are the toxic tactics that I employ. And once you start educating yourself, you'll have a million light bulb moments of going back years, decades, to individual moments where you remember, for whatever reason, that in your gut, you're like, that's weird, or that's wrong. Or all of a sudden, everything starts to make sense. It's like a puzzle that just falls into place.
Yeah.
And that sort of helps you realize, going back to, I actually never made the point before, but if you want something different in life, you have to change. Because for better or worse, none of us have any power to change anybody else. It doesn't matter how wrong they are, how bad they are, how much they've hurt us. We can't change them. So if we want something different, it means we have to do something different.
Yeah. And sometimes it's walking away.
Yeah. And to your point about boundaries and what are some of the things I did to reset, going back to living out of alignment with my values, it was then about understanding the underlying beliefs, which essentially led me to do that. And there were a lot of tools I used in order to get myself there. I myself used, and now I teach and use hypnotherapy, something called rapid transformation therapy, which is based on hypnotherapy, on clients, where we tap your subconscious to uncover the root cause behind your unhealthy patterns. So what is the root cause of why you're doing what you're doing? And those are ultimately beliefs you hold about yourself. And the most common belief underlying everything, and there are so many layers of this, is I am not enough. Right? I'm not lovable. I'm not worthy. Not deserving. Underlying all that, I am not enough. And there's always a reason as to why you feel that way, which is important to understand, because it helps you accept that what happened to you is not your fault. And that's really important. But it is your responsibility to do something about it now.
Yeah.
And changing that belief, which we also use hypnotherapy for, to I am enough, and all the other many beliefs that you hold, to shift those to and upgrade them and up level them to beliefs that actually serve you instead of hurt you, is what will help you. And it helped me set boundaries. But setting boundaries for me took practice. And I see this with a lot of people. It's not something just because, oh, now you understand what happened, now I can set a boundary. Maybe on some levels, but when you really dig deep, it takes practice, like anything, because you've never done it before. Even though you think you have, once you realize you haven't, it's not easy to do. And the theory behind it is one thing, but putting it into, you have to put yourself out there. And shitty situations, am I allowed to say that? Are gonna keep coming your way. Until ultimately you do upgrade your belief. And again, knowing you are enough is the easier part. Believing you are enough is the harder part, and that takes time. But changing the beliefs that you hold about yourself is what will allow you to set healthy boundaries for yourself and change your relationships.
That's so powerful. Thank you. Thank you. So what are some goals that you have? Like, do you set 5-year goals? Do you set 12-month goals? Do you set yearly goals? What do you like for yourself? What are you doing now?
Yeah.
That you're in this awesome place.
So for me, it's really about building my business now in order to get this message out there. I want as many people as possible to know about this subject and to believe that they are enough themselves. If I could plaster that on billboards all around the world, you are enough, that's what I would do, because you just have to see it everywhere so that every sense in your body absorbs that. And it is a big part of what I'm trying to do with the work that I do today through Revival Health, is helping people, you know, at various stages of the journey, and educating people on narcissism and toxic relationships so that they can hopefully recognize the red flags and avoid them, you know, either get out of a situation or preferably avoid them moving forward and change.
And even learning a response, because sometimes if it's a family member, the reality is they're your family members, but it's learning how to navigate that relationship, right?
It certainly becomes more complicated in most cases when it is family. However, you do always have a choice. And I know this goes counter to what so many people believe to their core, because it's what society and what our parents have ingrained in us. You know, your family, blood is thicker than water, and no matter what, you know, respect your elders and all of that. But you do have a choice, and you don't have to keep them in your life. It's not an easy thing to do, but you can choose to walk away. There is always a choice. It may not be a good choice. It may certainly not be an easy one, but there is always a choice. And so sometimes it is about limiting contact and, you know, depending on the form, how bad and the type of the relationship and the proximity. So maybe boundaries are enough, but sometimes cutting contact completely is the only way to move forward that's healthy for you. Because that's the thing. And it took me so long to really understand this. Our life, it's about us. It's not about anyone else. Like, you know, we begin alone and we end alone. Realistically. And, you know, what is the meaning of life and the purpose of life? And I believe it's about our personal growth and our own evolution. And I really don't see that as a selfish thing, because the better you are as a person, the happier, the healthier, the better you are for others, that you become an inspiration for others. You become kinder to others. You become, because you have boundaries, because you love and respect yourself. If we can't love and respect ourselves, it's just a hard battle. And I've lived it for 38, you know, I'm 42 now, and I only started this journey when I was 38. So I was freaking old, you know, in the scheme of things, before realizing, you know, that, hey, wait, actually, I'm responsible for my life. And that is what it is. It's taking responsibility for your life. And that's a scary word, I know. Because and when I first heard it, I was offended, because I was like, how dare someone tell me I'm not responsible? I'm so responsible. I'm doing, you know, a million different things. But I wasn't. I was responsible, but not taking responsibility for my own life. And responsibility just means an ability to respond. So when you are hit with, you know, unhealthy situations and toxic people, you are able to respond in a manner that is healthy for you. And it doesn't mean hating them. If it's family as well, it doesn't mean hating your family and you know, you're not walking away from them out of hatred. It's the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is indifference. It's about saying you can love someone from afar and never speak to them again. You can have empathy, even sympathy for someone, but never speak to them again. That's okay.
It's amazing. Amazing. You're so good. So do you have a reset plan? Because that's like our signature question.
So I'm going to put a spin on that. Good. I believe, like I mentioned before, that our growth and evolution is lifelong. So I don't actually believe there's a beginning and an end to it. Health is not a goal. It's a vehicle. It's a lifestyle. Your health and that, when I say health, I truly mean emotional, mental, and physical. So I'm an integrative health coach, and people think, oh, that's nutrition. Well, nutrition is certainly part of it, because what we put in our body fuels us or drains us.
Right. Yeah.
And it's about identifying what is giving you energy, what is taking energy. But it's a holistic approach, because your physiology affects your psychology, and your psychology affects your physiology. So and this is about my personal journey. I did all these things individually, and they all helped a little bit. But if you don't combine it all, it's always going to be limited,
right,
in terms of the progress you make, because we're one, and it's connected. Everything is connected.
Yeah, the whole body.
Exactly. So my reset was really 4 years ago, if you're talking about a reset back to zero. And I would like to think that I'm now on a trajectory that's lifelong.
Beautiful.
But I do hope, and I truly do believe that I will continue to grow and evolve and improve, because my relationships today are much healthier. And I today surround myself with people who are on a similar trajectory. Doesn't mean we're very different as people, but we all believe in growth and self-care and learning and evolving. And sometimes we're mirrors for each other, and that's harsh, but it's done with, like, truly to the core, with so much love and support for one another to keep growing.
And now that you know that what that looks like and feels like, it, you just want more of it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what are you doing to celebrate yourself?
To celebrate myself, I don't know. I do things every day to keep me on that trajectory and to keep me healthy, because my health is the one thing I will just never sacrifice again.
Right.
It was always so important to me, because I grew up with a very sick mother. So from when I was born, she had multiple sclerosis, which is a neurodegenerative disease. It's an autoimmune disease. And so I had a front row seat to what it's like to lose your health and be completely incapacitated, and what that means. So I was always very health conscious. But again, when I was in all these toxic relationships, I didn't understand how they were affecting my health. And when I couldn't stay healthy, it was so frustrating for me. I just didn't understand the connection for the longest time.
Right.
And so now that I do, I can approach health in a very different way. Before, it was really just the physical side. And now I can approach it in a very holistic side. So I do make sure every day that, that I eat well, that I exercise, and, my four-legged fur baby that I just love so much. He's my personal trainer. So he makes sure that I get my butt outside for many hours every day. So I'm either walking or hiking or running or doing something, because he's right there looking at me if I don't. And he's a 40-kilo beast right now. So he's a big boy. Yeah.
What do you have? What kind of dog do you have?
He's a Rhodesian Ridgeback, which is an African hunting dog.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
We used to have a Shih Tzu.
Oh, yeah. Dog, life is better with dogs. By the way, Pete, for anyone out there who's considering it, and there's so much work there. And I know people with kids might kill me for saying this, but they're like babies. I mean, with mine, I didn't sleep for more than 3 hours at a time for a year and a half. So they are like, they're like babies, and it's brutal. The sleep deprivation was hard. So hard.
It's a good test if you want to go to and have children. Get a dog so you can test it out, especially a puppy.
But talk about boundaries.
Yes.
He taught me so much about setting boundaries and tested me. I said it's a process and takes time, and you have to practice it. He helped me practice setting boundaries a lot. And once I did get back out into the dating world and everything, I saw it as an experiment. I was like, okay, let's see, how much can I identify at this stage? And then when I go on the date, am I recognizing? And I was just so self-aware of, and not in like obsessive or a bad way. It's like I'm testing someone. It's just, have I learned my lesson? You know,
Yes.
am I seeing the red flags now?
Yeah.
And because honestly, and sorry, I'm jumping around.
No, that's good.
I'm conscious of time, but my lowest point in life wasn't actually in the toxic relationships. And by the way, I was in so many, and it did start in the family for me. Right. So it usually goes back to childhood, the origin of the patterns. But it was after I got out, and as part of my healing, I climbed Kilimanjaro, because that was something I had always wanted to do with my brother. And I lost my brother very suddenly 10 years ago, which just shattered my soul in a million pieces. He was my person in this world. And ironically, that was the time where my last toxic ex swooped in. It was exactly at my most vulnerable time in life.
That's what they say.
Is, when they and took full advantage. And I stayed with this man for 6 years after that. And after I got out, I wanted to fulfill this. I thought it would help me heal. And I thought it was something, because my brother and I had always planned to climb Kilimanjaro. So I wanted to do it in his honor. And I did. And as part of the group that I'd signed up to go with, this guy, this guy showed up as, I forget where he was from. I don't remember his name, but he was part of this group. And he was the most obnoxious, arrogant, loud, overt narcissistic person that I have ever met in my entire life. And it was about halfway in the trekking, because you go for about a week.
Right.
And halfway through, and we were sitting around the breakfast table, which are all public, every group from all companies are there. So very public. And he just started screaming at me for no good reason, calling me every swear word under the planet, which I won't repeat on your show, but really just belittling me and for no reason. And he did this to varying degrees to other people as well. He was constantly insulting people, but he did this so publicly, screaming, and I just stood there like a deer in headlights. And mentally, I knew what was going on. I was thinking, how dare you? Who the hell do you think you are to talk to me this way? But I couldn't respond. I was unable. I was the deer in headlights, completely frozen. And it was the after effects of that. It was the fact that I was not, remember, responsibility, ability to respond, and that I was unable to respond and defend myself in that moment and stand up for myself. And nobody else did. Because everyone just, let him, and they're like, oh, well, he's crazy. So everyone knew he was crazy, but they allowed it, right? And by allowing it, we enable it. And it was after that I really hit my low point, because I was still unable to stand up for myself. And that's where I wanted to check out of life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And then you came on this journey and created a beautiful new world.
It was check out or do something different. I had to change. It wasn't about other people. That was a point when I realized I have to change, because I can't live like this. I don't want to live like, life is not worth living like this. So.
Right. And that's so powerful when you're able to make that transformation and see, and then go on the journey. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Now that you're on the other side, you can share your story.
But I was educated at that point. I knew what was happening.
Right.
And this is why boundaries, it takes practice.
Yeah.
And you have to ultimately, after the education, after some of the work you need to put yourself out there in certain situations to test.
Yeah. And you also have to be prepared. The universe is going to test you. It's going to put things in your way for you to respond. Yeah. And it may feel like it's doing it every day, but it's for you to practice and get comfortable and saying the no's or removing yourself from situations.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Beautiful. Now, where can people connect with you?
So I my website is www.revivalhealth.ch. But if you want some free resources as well, like I have a document, Are You in a Toxic Relationship? 25 Tactics to Be Aware of. So if you're unsure about the narcissistic topic, that's a great one for you to download. And if you do know that you have been in a toxic relationship and you're out and you're ready for healing, I would really encourage you to go watch my 30-minute training video, which goes through the fundamental steps of healing. And both those downloads can be found on my bio site, which is the link that you'll find in all my social media. So on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and on Instagram, which I believe you're going to share with people. Yes, but it's basically the Revival Health LLC on Instagram and Facebook. Yeah. And on LinkedIn, it's just Veronica Weedon. You can find me.
Awesome. Okay. Now we like to wrap up our show with rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
Oh boy. Okay.
So, and I know you're going to give some juicy advice. So what are 3 to 4 action steps that a woman who is experiencing interruptions or is experiencing what you experienced right now, what are some action steps that they can take right now?
Look at your values. Really step back and make sure you know what they are. What are your core values? And then are you really, truly, truly living in alignment with them, and be brutally honest with yourself. That's the first step and a really important one. A second little tip I would give someone is just write "I am enough" on Post-its and plaster them all around your apartment or wherever you spend a lot of time. Maybe it's at the office, and put, you know, some little tags on your computer or on your desk or in the mirror when you're brushing your teeth, just so that you're seeing it, even if you're not ready to say it out loud yet. If you are, that's great, even better. But if you're not ready, just so that you're seeing it, because your subconscious takes it all in, whether you know it or not. So that's a good thing. And then a third little tip I would give is change your passwords to statements of truth, like "I am enough," "I am lovable," you know, "I am worthy." Because if they're your passwords, although, you know, today most things are on automatic, so you don't actually have to retype them. And so if that's the case for you, then just think of 3 statements of truth about yourself and just read them before you go to bed every night. They're small steps. They're easy to do. They don't cost you a lot of time. But it's about changing the beliefs you hold about yourself. And that's a process. And the mind learns by repetition. So repeat, repeat, repeat. It's like fake it till you make it, you know?
Yeah, do it.
Yes.
But do it. So who's someone that inspires you?
My friends today, the people I surround myself with. Yeah. Because they're all on their own journees, and I really admire them for that. And they inspire me to keep pushing through on my journey. And because we all have hard times still, you know, it's not like all of a sudden life is a bed of roses and there are never any challenges. And, you know, I know lots of people say that. It's like, oh, I'm healed and I live this fantastic life now. It's like, there are always things you wish were different. And it's a journey, and shit happens, you know. And
there are always going to be things that come up that are out of your control.
Yes, exactly.
Right. So it can't be a bed of roses every day.
Yeah. So if you have people around you that can help you through that, then you're pretty wealthy.
Yes, you are. And what's a non-negotiable in your life?
My health.
Love that. Love it.
Making sure I'm living on my terms. You know.
Beautiful. And what's your go-to self-care activity or experience? I think I know.
Yeah, so we've talked about this already, but for me, if I had to pick one, well, there are 2 really. It's the nutrition side and it's running. So I found running when I was 13 years old. There was a lot of frustration, and it helped me. I was sent to boarding school when I was very young, and I felt very alone and isolated, and that's where I found running, and it just helped me feel free and liberated. It brought a lot of pain too, because back when I was in school, it was not cool for girls to be athletic.
Right.
So it came with a whole host of other things. But when I was on the track, I just had this sense of freedom. And I'm so grateful for that today, because I actually carried that with me at so many stages of my life. And it has saved my life so many times, and just given me a space to not think about things, and feel peace and feel freedom.
Beautiful. I love that. Love, love, love. I love running. I have issues with my feet right now, but
yeah, and it's not for everyone. You know, some people do it because they feel they have to. And
yeah,
and that's the thing with movement. I call it feel goods, because workout implies work.
Yes.
And it's all about feeling good. It's
Yeah.
moving your body. And so it's about finding something that works for you. It's not like, oh, I should be doing weights, or I should be doing cardio. It's you know, fine. And I have a process for this as well, how you can find what works for you, because there really is something for everyone.
Yes, there is. So you can't say there's nothing for you. Well, I want to thank you, Veronica, for being on the show. This was an amazing conversation. I know I've learned a lot. And I can't wait for us to sit down and have a narcissistic conversation.
Would love to. Yeah,
because that will be I know the they will flood with questions, and tell her to answer this. So I'm excited to for us to have that conversation. Thank you again. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And I hope it does bring value to the audience, and that everyone gets something out of it. They will.
Thank you so much, Hazel.
You're welcome.